Hi people, how are you all doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It is Sandra here and I am back again with another video. I don't know about you guys, but it has been a long minute, right? It has been literally a hot minute, so I'm super excited to get back into the space. So yeah, basically let's check out what we're going to be getting into today. Today's video is titled Music and Dancing is Haram. Haram basically means sin. So it says music and dancing is haram. Douglas Murray obliterates offensive Muslim. Music and dancing is haram, guys. Like, yo, if you have been on the channel for a while, you know how I feel about Douglas Murray. So definitely you do know that I'm super pumped to get into this video. So y'all just stick around and let's just hop right into the video.
And these are what some Muslims do in response to that. That's not a lie, that's just a statement of fact.
Many of the most important social freedoms and advances have been brought about by people who cause... The most important social freedoms and advances have been brought about by people who caused great offence in their time. Galileo, Charles Darwin, they caused offence to the church because they spoke out against the church orthodoxy. The first people who spoke out against slavery caused great offence. Those who denounced the church and the way the church supported slavery, they were denounced and condemned for causing offence.
Anything I could say that would offend you?
Well, there may be plenty of things you can say, but you have the right to say them, providing you don't incite violence against other human beings.
Well, how do we not legislate's the wrong word, but how do we make sure that people don't cross that line? Because it's a very grey area, isn't it? Miriam, you wanted to come back in.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, there are certainly things that are offensive, but do we need to offend people by saying them? I mean, there's a way of saying things. We can discuss the institution of the monarchy in this country without insulting the Queen. It therefore makes it perfectly reasonable and possible to discuss, I think, the tenets and beliefs of any other religion without insulting sensibilities.
So insulting sensibilities, that's interesting, without insulting sensibilities. Okay, some Muslims think that music and dancing are haram and should be forgiven, not forgiven, wrong word, Freudian slip, forbidden, haram, that it's forbidden. So if I were to say, music, forbidden, haram, that is just bonkers. Now some people are going to find that extremely offensive, aren't they? Have I offended sensibilities? Do I have the right to say that?
I think if people that are used to having debates within the interfaith debates are pretty familiar with the codes and practices of different religions and understand where those boundaries lie. And certainly that would not be one of those boundaries. But there are certain things that even people with no religion would find offensive. If I was to come on TV and start insulting, you know, I mean, I hate to be crass, but your mother, that would be extremely offensive. Now, we feel as strongly about our mothers as we do about the Prophet Muhammad. That doesn't mean you can't discuss what he says, the message he brings.
People in this country put up with being offended. Walking down the street, you get offended. There's somebody wearing something you don't like, or you get offended. It's part of being grown up. It's just accepting the fact that you get your feelings trodden upon. Does it mean you have to deliberately tread on people's feelings? No, not necessarily.
Exactly.
But what you cannot do is to ring-fence one ideology through fear, intimidation, or anything else. And that is what we see happening. That's what Ben Elsman was saying.
But Richard Dawkins, Professor, you've obviously, I mean, a lot of people have taken offence at some of the things that you've written. You know, they feel personally offended because they feel that their faith, which is so dear to them, and their belief, which they cherish, has, you know, you're criticising it. Do you think about that?
I don't go out of my way to offend.
No, but do you think about the possible consequences?
If people are offended, then they may argue against me. All I use is words. There's a radical distinction between using words and violence, and incitement to violence. The Salman Rushdie affair brings this out. Salman Rushdie simply wrote a book. That's what he did. He wrote a book. He was threatened with death. He was threatened with death by baying crowds in this country. People burned his books. They demanded the death penalty.
And some leading parliamentarians suggested that the paperback shouldn't come out.
Some leading parliamentarians, some leading clergymen, some leading bishops sided with the Ayatollah Khomeini rather than sided with this very distinguished novelist who did no more than put words on paper. That is a radical distinction.
Can I let Miriam come back in?
I
do
sort of feel like we're talking about issues in a vacuum here. I mean, you're talking about the fatwa against Salman Rushdie. Are we forgetting that we're talking about Khomeini? Are we forgetting that we're talking about the 1979 revolution and the context in which that was occurring? And similarly, when we talk about, you know, the reaction, the highly unacceptable, violent reaction of some Muslims, I would like to add, had to films like Geert Wilders' films and Van Gogh's film, etc., you know, we're almost talking like it's completely decontextualized. It's not happening in a vacuum.
Okay.
Muslims around the world feel victimized.
You're completely wrong. One of the people who supported the fatwa against Salman Rushdie was now Sir Iqbal Sakrani, a leader of the Muslim Council of Britain. He got a knighthood after saying that death was too good for Salman Rushdie. And he's a leader. He was a leader of the Muslim Council of Britain.
A.L. Kennedy, do you think that anything goes?
Yeah, I think we need freedom of speech. What alarms me more than anything is that freedom of speech is being constantly redefined as the right to offend, and it's only the negative aspects that were being shown. And that leads to absurdities like the photographs from the torture at Abu Ghraib are redefined in terms of these photographs are offensive and are causing unrest. And you don't get the dialogue which is about it's offensive to torture people, that causes unrest, and photographs of torture. And you have this absurd situation where the more true something is, and we are quite often talking about questions of belief and questions of factual, provable truth, the more true something is, the more offensive it will be. So, for example, you can't, or you would want to watch putting an article into a newspaper about a corporation because it would offend the corporation. And if it's true, you would want to be even more careful because it would impact even more on the share price. So this whole kind of right to offend seems to prevent truth from appearing now.
And what was so interesting in our earlier debate was we had a Christian evangelical who was, we have to admit, pretty offensive if you were gay, and yet Richard didn't think that that was allowed. So we are not allowed, you know, we are allowed to have Muslims feel offended, but not Christians.
I didn't say she shouldn't speak.
Richard, you said that she was
Christina, allow Richard to come back.
Offensive.
I didn't say she shouldn't speak. Of course she's free to speak. I simply said that her personal opinion is of no interest on a factual matter where there is evidence.
Richard, what do you think that means?
You can always have a difference of opinion, and when there is a difference of opinion, you're pro-homosexuality, she's anti-homosexuality, so be it, you put those opinions out in the arena. Where it gets downright offensive, when you're going to offend millions of people who died in the Holocaust by saying it never happened, that's fundamentally wrong.
But Sir Rabbi, should David Irving not be allowed to talk?
Bishop Tom, let's go on to this. As a final thought, Bishop Tom, cartoons for a second. Can I just take you to a specific point? There have been cartoons of, you know, God, a white man on a cloud in our culture and civilization for eons. You know, it's not something we get concerned about. Why should we make special rules for other people?
But there are different cultures. I mean, what was it, 10 years, 15 years ago, Spitting Image portrayed Jesus Christ as a hippie. We weren't terribly pleased about it, but we live with that culture. The Muslim community in this country said, he's one of our prophets. You don't denigrate our prophet.
The Life of Brian was a similar kerfuffle, wasn't it?
Now, actually, that was a very interesting kind of meeting of different cultures, different habits. And if we're going to share one country, and if we're going to have social cohesion, we've got to respect one another and think before we act. So,
Britain is one of the most...
I have not got the freedom here now to shout fire, because if I do, a lot of people will get fired.
You would. You do have the right. If it was on fire, you should shout fire.
Yes, but if it's not on fire, you don't shout fire. There's a limit to freedom.
So we have to watch our P's and Q's.
We have to watch about shouting fire in the public arena if that is going to damage our social cohesion.
Britain is one of the most multicultural, multi-faith countries in the world, and it's just not possible to carry on in a way you don't offend anyone. The answer is we don't have the right not to be offended, any of us.
Thank you all very much indeed.
Okay, people, so we did get into that, and trust me, I didn't see this coming. Like, this was so spicy and so honest. Like, I actually admire the brutal honesty everyone just had. I mean, everyone's saying their piece. I mean, I've gotten into, like, you know, quite a number of videos like this, you know, debates about, like, culture, religion, homosexuality, sexuality, and just, like, what have we. And I would say that this actually stands out to me because I feel like, first off, it had a lot more knowledgeable people who kind of like had what they were like, had facts about what they were saying. But as I always say, I feel like in every religion, there are extremists. Okay, if you guys watch my videos, you would know that I always say this when it comes to like Muslim and Christian debates. And the statement, you know, music and dancing is haram, I don't, I mean, I do have quite a number of Muslim friends who really are very passionate about their religion and, the God they serve, and they dance and they sing, right? And it doesn't take away from who they are or who they worship, or like maybe just insult or put down who they worship. So I don't know, I'm not a Muslim, right? So I wouldn't speak for them, but in the same stance, I'm not going to say that they're speaking for all Muslims as a whole body, right? I mean, as someone said here, the things we need to accept and acknowledge as an adult is that your feelings are going to be hurt, right? Like, people are not going to treat you like children. People are not going to try to mince the words around you. Yes, there could be some people who are very cautious about hurting feelings, and there could be people who really don't think about it. So in that instance, you just have to pick and choose it, and you just have to pick and choose. So you getting offended over people's opinion is actually hypocritical, because you getting offended over other people's opinion, meaning that your opinion on that topic conflicts theirs, and that means you are saying that your opinion is what matters, which, I mean, who said so? Like, who gave you that right? Do you get me? So I actually found this quite interesting and enlightening as well, because I like to pick people's brains and just understand why people think and do certain things. Okay, the case of the writer who was ganged up on and said that death was too good for him. I mean, what did he do? Even in the court of law, you have to have gone through a horrendous murder before you'll be given the death penalty. And someone who didn't even harm you in any way, he just hurt your feelings, literally your feelings, and you're saying that is too good for him. That is super insane. But nonetheless, I did get into this. This is my opinion, this is my take. I would love to know what you all think about this down in the comment box. Please do not hesitate to engage me. Let us talk, let us chat, regardless of however you feel, regardless of if you are offended by this video or my opinion whatsoever. Just do share it down, but with respect, basically. So thank you all so much for watching. Please do well to give this video a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you have subscribed to my channel, and let us keep on staying safe and happy up until the next one. Bye.